Welcome to the Deal by Me podcast, where we ask guests to tell us your story. Hello there, this is Dr. James W. Smith, your host. We seek to transform lives by encouraging and inspiring. Someone encouraged and inspired this host, a former lawyer, gambler, inmate, and his life was transformed. The same can happen to you. So when you listen to any of the Deal by Me podcasts, please support this podcast with a donation or a monthly recurring amount for as little as $3. If you're viewing any of the podcasts on YouTube, please subscribe. To supporters of this podcast, we say thank you. Check out my encouraging, inspiring, and transforming books. I'm available for speaking engagements, in person, and virtual seminars. So please contact me through my website, www.dealbyme.com. I have with me Birgitta Visser, who says that life is a journey of self discovery and empowerment, and that we must take responsibility for who we are and who we want to become. Within each of us, she says, shines a radiant light, our true essence, that has often been dimmed by painful experiences. She says it is time to reclaim that inner glow and unleash our power to heal. And so when we come to that place of acceptance and embrace accountability, we can transform hardship to wisdom. What an awesome guest I have today. And I'm just excited to have her share with us on this podcast. Brigitte, I want to say again, thank you so much for agreeing to come on the Deal by Me podcast. And would you tell us just a little bit about yourself and where you've been interviewed from?
Hi, James. Thank you so much for having me. When you talk about being interviewed from, are you talking about podcasts?
Yeah, yeah. Where we're talking from? Where are you? And I'll tell you where I am.
Okay, so yeah, I've been on many, many, many podcasts, always talking about inspiring and empowering other people. And going through our experiences when we suffer, it's never a good or bad experience. It's just an experience, but we suffer, we feel that pain, we feel that frustration, the anger, and it's all about walking through the motions, not evading the pain, but really walking through the pain. And that is just really important because we often see the demons in our head as foes, but they're not foes. They're actually our triggers. And when we embrace the darkness within ourselves and we talk to the demons inside our head, so to speak, the triggers, and we analyze why we're triggered and we heal that aspect within ourselves, we can breathe a little bit lighter. We can let go of that weight. And if it's one thing, I mean, my experience have taught me so, so much that I've got such an inner strength, such a resilience. I bounce back because I understand the experiences. And I've been through something very, oh gosh, James, something very, very recent.
Okay, well, we're gonna talk about it. Where
Yeah.
are you? Where are you located now?
I am in Spain. I've moved more
Okay.
times than my age, and I'm
Well, that's,
50.
well, that's okay. That's okay. We're fine. You're in Spain. I always ask that because that helps me to kind of know where my podcast is being shared and what have you. So that's the reason I asked the question. Okay. I want you to know that I have looked at your profile. I mean, awesome, interesting, I guess intriguing. It's just amazing when I think about where you've been, what you've been through, and how you have overcome. And you have really uh, inspired me. And your story is one that I know will be very encouraging, inspiring, and hopefully transforming to listeners of this podcast. And so I want to just ask you a couple of things that I would like for you to kind of talk about. And that is, I know that I mean, every possible thing that you could think of, you've experienced it.
Yeah.
I mean, abuse, whoa, you just name it. And so my question to you, how do you move from being the victim and my God, you you have been the victim, no question about that in so many of these incidents that we'll talk about, to being a victor and begin the journey of healing. How do you do that?
I love that victim to victor. I always say victim to victor, victorious. And how, it wasn't like boom, it was overnight. I had to go through many traumatic experiences. And as you said, yeah, from abuse to starving myself to losing my dad when I was 14, being insulted in the modeling industry, having my stint with drugs, losing my stepdad at when I was 25. And yeah, I rolled into dysfunctional relationships because I didn't heal myself, but I didn't know how. And it was really a journey of self-discovery over the many, many years. And yeah, it's all about taking accountability for our lives. We can keep being in that fight or flight mode or being riddled with anxiety, but we're not doing ourselves any favors. It's really taking a step back and being the observer and just breathing,
Mm-hmm.
remaining in that calm. Because there is this saying, James, and I know you've heard of it. When the water is choppy, when it's stormy, you can't see. But when you sit in the stillness of yourself, the water's calm
Mm-hmm.
and you get far more clarity. And I've really had to learn because I was always running from my emotions. Oh, I was like a super cape hero at it. I was a
Mm-hmm.
pro, and I couldn't live like that anymore. And sometimes it takes really traumatic experiences where you hit, a
Mm-hmm.
rock bottom, where you
But
really have to look at yourself.
mm, I feel you because I've hit rock bottom myself, so
Yeah.
I know exactly where you're coming from. But in the midst of all of this, sometimes we do get the strength, and I'm seeing that in you. You got the strength, the courage, and to kind of move forward.
Yeah.
You overcame your childhood trauma and a early loss of your father. So tell listeners, how did those experiences shape you,
Yeah.
and what ultimately sparked your healing? Talk about that a little bit for us.
Yeah. So, especially when that happened in my youth, it really dented my self-confidence. I was very afraid of boys, when I went to school. And popular kids would copy my homework. And even when I went on a school trip, one of the guys just picked up my arm like this, and he said to the whole class, "Look how skinny she is." Because
Mm-hmm.
I was one of the tallest in the class. I was 5'11", and that didn't sit well with me. I mean, bullying never sits well. But I just had to roll with the punches. And when my dad passed away when I was 14, that was tough. And I think whenever a parent passes or a loved one, it's always hard. Because I felt like it was a dream. And the next day when I would wake up, my dad would walk through the door. But of course, that wasn't going to happen. And I was very insecure growing up, very insecure. I just wanted to disappear. And that's why I was walking like the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, it was tough. My school years were tough. When I got out, it was still hard for me. I really wanted to prove myself. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to give the modeling a go, even though my mom had put me on a modeling course. But and that was really to crick up my self-confidence, but it
Mm-hmm.
didn't really work. That's not really how you heal the trauma within. Um, but yeah, I mean, even though I wanted to prove myself, I was assaulted in the modeling industry, and I was always compared to like Brooke Shields or Linda Evangelista.
Mm,
So that didn't work in my favor. But I got to travel the world, and wherever I laid down my head, I would work because
okay.
that's my attitude. I didn't care where I was. I've been all over the world,
Hmm.
but when I was hostessing, bartending, doing promotional gigs, I was always working.
Mm, okay.
That was my attitude.
I hear you. I'm I guess I'm just so amazed at your story. In some ways, it's intriguing and interesting, and in other ways, it's very sad. And I guess I can say it about my own life. I know that's what
Mhm.
people would say about me and what happened to me and how I've come back. So I'm certain that folks will say could say the same thing. So I do understand that, but I know that uh, you stated something in your profile that was very interesting to me, and you said I'm an open book
Yes.
and have no shame or
No.
fear labels slapped to me, as we are all temporary visitors to this place called Earth. Could you
Yes.
talk about that a little bit more?
Yes. We come into this world and we're raised by our parents, and we blend into an environment. And so we are conditioned to live a certain way, to act a certain way, to be a certain way.
Mm,
And we kind of lose our way in this earthly jungle, as I always call it. And we have all these labels slapped upon our minds, whether it's shame, fear, guilt, bitterness, anger, you name it, it doesn't really matter. Um, and why do we have to label ourselves? Does it matter?
mm,
No. Um, it's also that I needed to get rid of that, and I think that's part to do with the ego as well. And the ego, as I always say, means to eject God out, right? We're not plugged into source. We're all connected to one another, but we live these separate lives because we think we're all separate. We're not, because the light within our body, our soul, is the same as everyone else's. It's just our physical appearance that is different. Yeah, our spirit is the same. We're all energy. And so we've been conditioned to live a certain way. And it's by really healing our trauma that we let go of that shame, of that fear, of that guilt. Because as I said earlier, right, there's not a good or bad experience. It's just an experience. And how you decide to feel that and to deal with that and to heal from that, that is entirely up to you, right? Because, like you, James, you've been through a lot, but you have overcome. And as I always say, you overcome and you become.
mm. Well said. Well said. I don't know if I can say it better. Well said. You still with me, Brigida?
Yeah.
Okay, just want to make sure we
Yes.
we uh we 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 are far away, and I just want to keep us rolling. Uh,
Yes.
why are we here? What's the purpose of life as you
That's
see it?
easy. Yeah. For me, it's all about what I've been told, and which makes perfect sense to me. It's
Hmm.
all about returning to that love for ourselves and each other.
Okay.
And because we're so conditioned, it's like we judge other people. We're very opinionated. But the beauty about all of us is that we vibrate at different levels of consciousness, and we are all reflections of one another. We're all
Mm,
teachers of one another.
mm,
Yeah. And we're all here to walk one another back home to the light and love within ourselves.
mm,
That's one. But we're also, and I love it when we're talking about alchemy. We are divine alchemists.
mm,
Yeah. But we don't always harness the energy to create the life that we want because we don't manifest properly. And that's because there are kinks in the cable. And when I talk about kinks in the cable, it's the energy frequency. So we block our energy. And again, it's all about transforming our lives. And
Hmm.
that's alchemy for you. So when we talk about transformation, which is on your shirt,
Hmm.
transforming, it's it's turning lead into gold. So the heaviness, you heal the heaviness and the pain and turn that into gold and turn that into the stepping stones of wisdom, becoming more aware, becoming more conscious of why you went through these experiences and embracing that pain
Hmm.
and feeling lighter within yourself and feeling better about yourself.
I hear you. I hear you. Well said. Brigida, uh, I am about encouraging, inspiring, and transforming. I pastored
Yes.
for 32 years at the same church,
Well,
retired. And one reason I started the podcast was to continue my ministry and hopefully, encourage, hopefully inspire.
yeah.
You are a perfect guest for who I look for when I'm bringing on my podcast. And
Thank
so
you.
I want to ask you this question. You've obviously been through a lot. And if somebody, you know, would want to contact you, and we'll get to that in a moment. But right at this point, if somebody's going through some of the same stuff that you have
Yeah.
gone have gone through, I mean, and obviously you've gone through quite a bit. What advice would you give them? What would you say to them that would be encouraging, inspiring, and hopefully transforming, that they might, be lifted and see things in a different light? Because
Yeah.
I must admit that folks are hurting. People have gone through some things and are still going through some
Yeah.
things. So what is it that you would say to them?
So, can I just give an example first
Sure.
before I get into that? So, I went through something very, very recently, and I just got out of that. It was a narcissistic relationship. I was
Hmm.
gaslighted, and this person also had mental health issues, anger issues, um, outbursts towards me. And it was someone that I've known for 18 years, and he came back into my life, and we thought we'd give it a go. So it lasted less than 3 weeks because I had to kick him out. My, I can say my life was destroyed, but it's not, right?
Hmm.
My house was chaos, so I had to cleanse it, clean it, everything. He came back again, and it wasn't very good. Then he came back again. I had to call the cops, and this was last week.
Okay.
But what is really important, regardless of what you go through, is to to stand your ground, take responsibility. And I know that is hard because sometimes you are in this tidal wave of emotions. But for me, what worked for me is just that I kept calm and composed. And it was like I just had to breathe through it. And I just asked the universe for help. And I was, trust me, James, in the past, I was a walk me over. Yeah, I didn't dare to open my mouth, especially in relationships. And it was like I wanted to help. I wanted to help, but you can't fix a broken bird. And in the past, I was a broken bird. But this time it was like, no, I'm not having this in my life. We are all responsible for how we live our lives. We're not responsible for other people unless you've got kids. That's a different story.
Mm-hmm.
But it was it really was, I wasn't going to enable anymore. And I say to people, you are worthy. And I needed to take back my power. I really needed to take back my power and say enough is enough.
Okay.
And it wasn't easy, but I just stood my ground because we each deserve to be happy. Yeah. And we cannot make others happy. We cannot change others. And you can drag a horse to water, but you cannot force it to drink.
Uh-huh.
And people will keep trying and trying and
Mm-hmm.
trying. And this experience needed to happen for me. And that's the beauty about it. I understood why it happened because it needed to be so elevated for me in order
Mm-hmm.
for me to be able to shut the door and move on with my life.
Mm.
And
Gr-
so that was the experience for me. So it's really important where people, when you go through something, it's like, why is this? It's not why is this happening to me, but why is this happening for me? What is it teaching me? Yeah.
mm. Wow. I love that. Not why is it happening to
Yep.
me,
Yep.
but why is it happening for me? I love it. That's awesome. That is really
It's a
awesome.
big
Yeah.
switch in perspective.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
here's the thing is, I don't hate I don't
Mm-hmm.
hate people. And I don't hate my ex at all.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you know, underneath it all, we are all beautiful souls, beautiful souls. It's just through through our conditioning that we go through trauma and we go through this pain and this suffering. And it's really for our soul's evolution,
Mm-hmm.
for our own growth. And it's not always what we want in life, but what is needed to grow and to expand our consciousness and to
Mm-hmm.
understand more about life. So I am thankful that he was a part of my life.
I got you.
And I am grateful. And, I wish him well on his journey. And I
Okay.
will always hold that love. And I hold for people that have wronged me, if you would like to use that word, I love them all and I have forgiven them all. Because what is the point of walking around with that bitterness? There
We
really, really isn't.
we got you. We got you. Listeners, don't go any place because we'll be right back. But first of all, I want to ask Birgitta
Yep.
to share with listeners of this podcast how they can get more information on you. If you have a website, if
Yep.
you have a book, or whatever it
Mhm.
is that you want to share, would you do that now?
Yes. So I have a website. It's www.powersoulhealing.com. And then I have a book out, Becoming Authentically Me, which is there's a marketing gimmick coming out tomorrow for 5 days, and it'll
Okay.
be free on Kindle. Um, so, grab your copy while you can.
Yeah.
And I have a second collaboration book out that is called Become Empowered with 14 other authors.
Mm,
And that was a number one bestseller. I have another collaboration coming out I think the end of August or early September. My second solo book comes out in October, and it's about my time in India where I learned to meditate. I was in the Art of Living Center. Was amazing. I loved it. I love the culture. And so this is also there are messages in there from the Indian deities, and I talk about depression as well.
okay.
And that's in my first book as well. I talk about depression, mental health, addiction.
Mm, okay. Thank you so much for sharing, Brigida, how folk can contact you and learn more about what you're doing. 'Cause this is a powerful, powerful conversation and interview we're having today, and I'm just grateful. You know, that you are a jack of all trades.
Yes.
you,
Yes.
you've done it all. As I read read your profile, you in the healing, modeling, web
Yep.
design,
Yep.
bartending, channeling, corporate work, and more. So How would you turn your experiences into practical advice to help people reconnect with their true selves? How do you do that?
Well, as you said, encourage, inspire, transform.
Okay.
But no, yeah, no, but honestly, when we go through trauma, as you know, we
Hmm.
are able to inspire and empower others. And it's planting these food for thought seeds into their own head in how they can heal themselves. Um, because at the end of the day, James, we're just tools in the toolbox.
Hmm.
And yeah, practical advice. I mean, for me, what worked for me is meditation.
Okay.
And that really helps to calm me down. And people say, but then I have to sit for an hour. No, just go onto YouTube and type in David Ji and listen to 20 minutes of his meditations. And he deals with anxiety, fear, manifestations. Um, uh, and it just calms you down. It's a great way to start the day, and a great way to end the day.
Okay.
And grounding works for me. I don't care if you want to stand with your feet in the earth or you want to do a grounding exercise. But it's really all, whatever you go through, it's all about just taking responsibility and reining back your I am power. Yeah, because
Okay.
we often let go of that control and we allow others to control our emotions
Right.
because we're so used to that. And it's
Mm.
take back control, take back that power, yeah, and transform your life
I,
because only you can do that.
I love that. I love it. I love it. Well said. Now, having said that, is that what got you into communicating with the light beings and archangels and ascended masters and more? Is that how you got there through your meditation, or is this totally something different?
I got this through because I've done so much work. I've studied many healing modalities because I
Okay.
really wanted to understand why I was going through certain things. I mean, back in 2009, after my ex, after I helped the police get my ex deported back to the US because he was held for ransom by the Dutch Crips because he'd stolen from them.
Hmm.
My mom got me out of Holland in the space of like 2 days, and this guy, before he's in prison for life now, he threatened me. He called me and he said, if I'm ever going to find you, I'm going to kill you. And he's like, if I'm ever going to find your ex, you'll never find him because he'll be dead in a ditch somewhere. And that really shook me to my core.
Yeah.
And I downed a whole box of ibuprofen at the time. And that was a very lame attempt at my life. And so that was my rock bottom. And so from that point on, I studied many healing modalities because I wanted to understand, but I also wanted to help people. So Reiki was my saving grace. Loved it. I studied levels 1 and 2 in the space of probably 1.5 years. It's not like
Okay.
these days you do it in a weekend. No, it wasn't like that at the time because you had to do case studies and everything. But I also, I did EFT, the emotional freedom technique,
Okay.
wonderfully powerful, but very simple technique, because you tap out the emotions out of an experience and then you are not triggered anymore. Um, I mean, meditation, became a meditation teacher as well. I just studied many healing modalities,
Okay.
but
Oh,
communicating, communication started in
right.
probably 2016 when I went to a workshop.
Okay.
And yeah,
That,
everyone saw all these colors and everything in the meditation, but I didn't see anything.
all
But there
right.
was one exercise that was given that anybody can do, right? Just take a pen and a paper and just sit there, take a couple of deep breaths in, and state to the universe, I'm open and ready to receive.
Wow.
And
Wow.
because I was so far gone, because another ex was, he was horrific to me. I think my mind was shot And I was very upset that I didn't see anything. But when teacher gave that exercise, I went home. And that's exactly what I did. And I started to write. It just started to flow. And when I read it back, it was Old English prose. And I was just crying tears of joy. Just
Mm,
because I taught Reiki to, and I attuned people and I was teaching workshops, this was something that I was good at. And I just started asking questions. And then I had my cards and I would just pick whatever, if it was one of the ascended masters or the archangels, I'd just sit there and say, have you got a message to convey?
wow. Wow.
And that's how I started. And that's
Mm,
how it always works, James. As you
no.
know, when you go to the
Mm,
gym, yeah, you're not going to get fit in the space of a day. And
no.
when you ride a bike, you've got to learn how to ride a bike.
Mm. Birgitta, you, I don't know what to say. I'm sitting here just thinking about this interview and all that you have been through and have overcome. It's just exciting. And I do want to ask you one last question. I think
Mhm.
that will kind of sum it up for a lot of listeners of this podcast because I would like to know, and I know they would like to know, why do we often attract and end up in dysfunctional relationships? Please tell me the answer.
Because we asked for it.
So, because we do
We
what?
asked for it.
Oh,
We
wow.
do.
Because we
Well,
asked
we
for it.
do. We ask for it. Do you know why? Because
Ah,
that's what we attract. It's like we have a certain, so we have an energy frequency that we vibrate at, and it attracts other people. That it's like we're magnets, and so we attract these people. And I look back, and I'm telling you, James, oh my gosh, all my relationships have been dysfunctional, but I've learned something from every one of them. But up there, the universe must have been thinking, oh, Brigitte, what are you doing? What are you going to do with this one? Are you going to be a donkey again? Oh, there she goes again. There she goes again. She's off to the races and helping them till the ends of the earth. And I
oh,
really had to learn that, you know. It was me running away from my emotions, running away from my trauma because I wanted to fix another. I wanted to fix another and mold them to my liking. They were refurbishment projects to me, but I had to repair myself. I had to look at myself and heal the broken aspects within me. And I call that kinsakuri. You know,
okay.
that's a Japanese word for healing broken fragments and gluing yourself back together. It's rejigging yourself, but in a different way. And, you know, life is all about going through the motions of our experiences and understanding them. And well, we keep healing. Come on, I'm still a work in progress. But I, like I said, when we go through these experiences, through these dysfunctional relationships, it's really about looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, hey, why am I in a dysfunctional relationship? Yeah. What's it doing for me? Yeah.
Well said. Well said. Birgitta, this has been awesome. And I am certain that listeners of this podcast will enjoy just listening to this interview because you've shared so much good stuff. That's the way I want to put
Mhm.
it. So much good stuff. And so I want to thank you again. Okay. And there you have it. Birgitta Visser sharing with us today. And until next time, peace and blessings be with each of you.